Black people, it truly does matter where you get your information from. In the military, they have a saying, speed kills. It's true in war and in life. If you're behind the curve, you're already 3/4 of the way to being defeated. Jason and I established TheBlackChannel.net as a virtual think tank so that black people would not just be forearmed, but forewarned. While everyone else on broadcast and internet-based media was busy hoping Donald Trump would fizzle out after Ohio, TheBlackChannel.net radio alone boldly predicted Trump would take New Hampshire by storm, which he did. The same people who were wrong about New Hampshire then began to say that that was a one-off. But we knew better, and against all popular opinion, we boldly predicted that Trump would win South Carolina big.
Donald Trump will carry South Carolina, and he is going to do it by a huge margin, because there's a lot of good white folks who are looking at him and saying, you know, a Donald Trump presidency would send the right message to the black people to restore the pecking order, to reinforce the pecking order.
Then, as Super Tuesday approached, the same people who were wrong about New Hampshire and South Carolina were now desperately clinging to the silly hope that Trump would somehow get lost in the shuffle on Super Tuesday. But we told you all that simply wasn't going to happen. We alone told you Trump would win in a landslide. Even the most headstrong of conservatives wasn't willing to put their reputation on the line with a prediction that bold. But then again, they aren't us.
If he does what the Black Channel predicts, what we predicted before, and let me be very clear about this tonight. Brothers and sisters, we're not bull jiving. We're putting it all on the table. No one else will, only we can. Donald Trump, I told you that he was going to win South Carolina, and he did. Super Tuesday, they might as well call it Trump Tuesday, because he's gonna run the tables. I predict he's gonna have a sweep. I predict Super Tuesday, Donald Trump is gonna have a sweep because he speaks to what white America truly feels. And as I told you before, they just weren't sure if enough people were willing to come out publicly and say it. But now it is becoming a stampede of group contagion. Super Tuesday, Trump runs the tables, and then 4 days after that, he sweeps the board again. At that point, he does not become the front runner. He's the front runner now. At that point, he becomes the incumbent.
As we said, the vote didn't break away from Trump. It broke in his favor, a primary electoral landslide. But we went beyond merely predicting Trump's victory. We explained to you why this was happening, and why even if Trump lost, the very fact that he was running this kind of a campaign was significant. We were the very first to tell you that this was history repeating itself, and exactly what history it was.
Donald Trump is simply not just a novelty candidate. What we are seeing here is the moving of the needle. The last time something like this happened was in the 1960s with Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater came along with what you would think of today as neoconservatism. It started with Goldwater. He made a failed, truth be told, disastrous bid for the presidency. And a lot of Democrats and a lot of black people were like, see, these guys are too crazy. They're over the top. See how nutty that Goldwater guy was? But there was somebody else who saw Goldwater's failed run, and they correctly interpreted how the message needed to be changed. The person who saw Goldwater's failed run and decided that they would capitalize on it, Ronald Wilson Reagan and Richard Milhous Nixon. Barry Goldwater lost, but he inspired others to take the banner and run, and they did. Donald Trump is winning, and this is going to influence them, because what it's going to tell a lot of them is, we got to take the hard line. We got to take the hard line.
The white media had not yet remembered the lesson of Barry Goldwater's failed presidential campaign, but TheBlackChannel.net did. Well, Monday, March 21st, the New York Times' Frank Rich and Rachel Maddow finally recalled how Trump was repeating Goldwater's campaign. And they even pointed out that, like Goldwater, whether Trump wins the presidency or not is almost irrelevant, because, like Goldwater, the very fact someone is bold enough to run a presidential campaign in this manner changes the societal and political landscape.
There's all these people saying, listen, if Donald Trump is picked, the Republican Party implodes, it falls apart, it'll be unrecognizable, there won't be a Republican Party anymore. There was those kinds of warnings about nominating Barry Goldwater in 1964. What happened is they lost an election in 1964 and came back as basically the same party but a little more right-wing thereafter. I feel like the Donald Trump nomination is something that the Republican Party will acclimate to. I don't necessarily think it's going to do anything disastrous to that party.
No, I think it's just going to make it a little bit more to the right, have a new cast of characters that are not the old establishment, just as after Goldwater lost in a landslide to Johnson, Arthur Schlesinger, James West in the New York Times, everyone said, we need a two-party system. This party is gone. 2 years later, Ronald Reagan was elected governor of California. Here we have a situation where there'll be a new establishment. It will be Trump people and the people who are already cottoning up to him, the Jeff Sessions, even Karl Rove, Bill Kristol, they'll leave by the highway. So what? So I think there'll be a new establishment of these people, but it will be fundamentally the same very conservative party that's gotten much more conservative in the past 20 years.
Yep. The white media remembered Goldwater only more than a month after TheBlackChannel.net had already told you about it. From the fall of Detroit, to Rico Gray, to Russell Wilson, to Donald Trump, TheBlackChannel.net keeps you way ahead of the curve. The B1 Brigade is leading the pack, and the white media is pulling up the rear. So if you're still getting your information and analysis from the white media, then you're the last one to know. Now more than ever, black truly is the future.